Ly Thuong Kiet, 1019 to 1105, whose real name was Ngo Tuan, was one of the greatest military generals in the history of Vietnam. He lived during the Ly Dynasty, a prosperous period for the nation, and left a lasting legacy through his intellect, patriotism, and remarkable military achievements. Ly Thuong Kiet stood out for his exceptional military talent, most notably through two resounding victories. Launching a swift preemptive strike into Song territory in 1075 and successfully commanding the defense at the Nguyet River in 1077, completely repelling the invasion by the Song Dynasty. Not only a brilliant general, he is also believed to be the author of the poem Nam Quoc Son Ha, Mountains and Rivers of the Southern Country, considered the first declaration of independence in Vietnamese history, asserting national sovereignty to both the people and invaders. With the stature of a military strategist, a national defender, and a symbol of self-reliant patriotism, Ly Thuong Kiet is rightfully revered as an immortal icon in the hearts of the Vietnamese people, honored across generations as a quintessential hero of the medieval era. His father was Ngo An Ngu, who held the position of Sung Ban Lang Tuong, a military official under the reign of Emperor Ly Thai Tol. The Ngo family had a tradition of loyalty and service to the Ly dynasty. From a young age, Ngo Tuan stood out for his resolute character, intelligence, and eagerness to learn. He excelled not only in literature, but also in military tactics and martial arts. Notably, he demonstrated exceptional strategic thinking and a strong will to defend the nation, qualities that would later be fully realized in his military career. As he reached adulthood, Ngo Tuan quickly drew the attention of the royal court. Thanks to his outstanding talent and numerous military accomplishments, he was granted the royal surname by Emperor Ly Thai Tong, changing from Ngo to Ly and officially becoming Ly Thuong Kiet, a special honor reserved for those with great contributions to the court and the country. On his path as an official, Ly Thuong Kiet rapidly rose through the ranks and was entrusted with major military responsibilities. He held important positions such as Ta Thun Ve Dien Tien Chi Huai Su, commander of the Left Imperial Guard, Tai Ui, Grand Marshal, and became the top commander in the royal military hierarchy. More than just a general, Ly Thuong Kiet also possessed deep knowledge of politics, diplomacy, and administration, a true polymath, representing the ideal of both wisdom and bravery during the Ly dynasty. In the early stage of his career, he contributed to strengthening the southern borders and helped the court stabilize internal affairs. These experiences later became the foundation for him to lead the Dai Viet army and people to victory over the Song invaders in the historic campaigns that followed. Defeating the Song invaders, the glorious victory of 1075 to 1077. A time of turmoil in history. In the latter half of the 11th century, relations between Dai Viet and the Song dynasty grew increasingly tense. After a period of internal consolidation, the Song court began to reveal its expansionist ambitions toward the south. Using the pretext of supporting a displaced general from Champa, the Song dynasty secretly prepared forces to carry out its plan to invade Dai Viet. Recognizing the situation, the Ly court held a crucial meeting and made a bold decision. Instead of passively waiting for the enemy to attack, they would strike first, a move that required great strategic foresight. The man entrusted with leading the campaign was Grand Commander Ly Thuong Kiet. The lightning offensive into Ung Kum Liam, 1075. Instead of adopting a defensive posture, Ly Thuong Kiet chose to launch a preemptive strike, leading a highly trained army of about 100,000 troops deep into Song territory. The targets were the three frontier prefectures of Ung, Kum, and Liam, now part of Guangxi and Guangdong in China. The campaign was executed in secrecy, with speed and surprise. In less than 2 months, the Dai Viet army captured Kum prefecture after a fierce battle, attacked Liam prefecture, killing thousands of enemy troops, surrounded and seized Ung prefecture, home to the heavily fortified city of Yangzhou. At Yangzhou, Dai Viet forces faced a strong defensive system. However, through siege tactics, cutting off reinforcements, and deploying siege machines, they broke through the defenses, killed tens of thousands of enemy soldiers, burned supply depots, and destroyed the Song's food reserves. The Ung, Kum, Liam campaign not only struck a heavy blow to the Song's military presence in the south, but also caused chaos and panic within the Song court, forcing them to delay their invasion plans. This was one of the most successful preemptive strike campaigns in Vietnamese military history. The defense of the Nguyet River, 1777, a military masterpiece. Despite heavy losses, the Song Dynasty was determined to retaliate. In early 1077, they dispatched General Guo Kui with over 100,000 elite troops to invade Dai Viet by land and water. Ly Thuong Kiet chose to build a strong defensive line on the southern bank of the Nguyet River, present-day Co River, a strategic barrier to prevent the Song from advancing toward the capital Thang Long. He constructed fortified camps using earth, bamboo, and wood, organizing multi-layered defenses ready to repel any attack. He also employed the strategy of swift attacks and quick withdrawals, frequently launching raids on the Song rear, exhausting their forces and morale, forcing them into a prolonged stalemate under harsh conditions with dwindling supplies. When the enemy was sufficiently weakened, Ly Thuong Kiet proactively sent a letter proposing negotiations, prompting the Song army to withdraw with their honor intact, though, in reality, they had failed entirely in their invasion objectives. The victory against the Song invaders marked a monumental turning point in Dai Viet's history. It not only secured the nation's borders, but also affirmed Ly Thuong Kiet's extraordinary talent in both military strategy and diplomacy. Notably, he demonstrated a forward-thinking military philosophy. To sit still and await the enemy is to fall into a passive stance. It is better to strike first to break the enemy's strength. This principle became a lasting lesson for future generations of Vietnamese military leaders. Nam Quoc Son Ha, the first declaration of independence of Vietnam. A sacred historical context. In 1077, during the Song invasion of Dai Viet, and at the height of the fierce battle along the Nguyet River defense line, Ly Thuong Kiet not only commanded his troops with skill, but also demonstrated exceptional cultural and spiritual foresight. He understood that beyond military strength, the key to victory in war was the fighting spirit of the soldiers. In that difficult moment, under the silent night sky of the battlefield, he ordered a poem to be recited in a powerful and solemn voice at a riverside temple. The poem was, Nam Quoc Son Ha Nam De Ku, Tiet Nhiên Định Phận Tại Thiên Thư, Nhu Hang Ich Lot Lai Xâm Phạm, Nhu Dang Hang Can Tu Bai Hu. Translated meaning, over the mountains and rivers of the southern land reigns the southern emperor. This has been clearly ordained in the Book of Heaven. How dare you rebellious invaders infringe upon our land? You will surely face humiliating defeat. A proclamation of sovereignty resounding through the battlefield. Though brief, the poem carried the weight of the first declaration of independence in Vietnamese history. It made clear that the land of Dai Viet belongs to the Vietnamese, ruled by a southern emperor. This order is divinely sanctioned and unchangeable. Any act of invasion violates morality and the will of heaven. The aggressors will inevitably suffer humiliating defeat if they dare to intrude. The sacred use of language and the solemn context of its recitation transformed Nam Quoc Son Ha into a powerful spiritual weapon, stirring the hearts of soldiers, boosting morale, and planting unshakable faith in the righteousness of national defense. The author of the poem, Ly Thuong Kiet. Many scholars today believe that Ly Thuong Kiet was the true author of Nam Quoc Son Ha, although some sources list it as anonymous. However, the fact that he had it recited before battle at a temple shows he was at least the initiator, promoter, and strategic user of the poem as a cultural, political tool in wartime. He was not only a celebrated general, but also the first to articulate the idea of territorial sovereignty in literary form, much earlier than many other nations in the region. Its enduring historical and spiritual value. Nam Quoc Son Ha is not merely an ancient poem, it is the soul of an era. It reflects a deep-rooted sense of national identity and pride in the culture of Dai Viet, a belief in justice, divine mandate, and moral righteousness. A steadfast spirit of resistance and determination to protect the homeland. Centuries later, the poem is still recited as a sacred vow, an immortal anthem of patriotism and indomitable spirit. Historical stature and lasting legacy, a master of military strategy, ahead of his time. Ly Thuong Kiet was not only a heroic general with glorious victories, but also a master of strategic military thinking, known for his proactive and creative command in warfare. His philosophy of Tien Phat Che Nhun, meaning strike first to gain control over the enemy, reflected his sharp awareness and insight into the times. In the context of Dai Viet as a smaller nation, he clearly understood that waiting for the enemy to attack would place the country in a passive position. Therefore, he boldly led a preemptive campaign into Ung, Kum, and Liam, crippling the Song's rear and securing absolute strategic initiative. His tactics of swift attack and withdrawal, flexible defense, and psychological warfare laid the foundation for Vietnam's future military doctrine. A skilled politician and diplomat. Beyond his military talents, Ly Thuong Kiet was also an exceptional diplomat. After defeating the Song forces, he did not escalate the war, but instead proactively sought peace, ensuring long-term national security and maintaining stable relations with the northern neighbor. His approach of peace in victory demonstrated a firm yet gentle character, neither arrogant nor submissive. It remains a profound lesson for political and diplomatic leaders of all eras. The forerunner of the scholar general. Tradition, Ly Thuong Kiet's greatness extended beyond the battlefield. He symbolized the harmonious combination of intellect and martial prowess in Dai Viet culture. His composition and use of the poem Nam Quoc Son Ha served not only to boost morale, but also to evoke national pride, showcasing a visionary use of culture as a weapon in warfare. The image of Ly Thuong Kiet, both commanding on the battlefield and composing poetry expressing ideals of national independence, has become a model for Vietnam's talented generals throughout history. An immortal legacy in the nation's heart. Ly Thuong Kiet left behind a profound legacy not only through his victories, but through his ideas and strategic vision. His name transcended that of a mere general to become a timeless symbol of patriotism, the spirit of Dai Viet, and national sovereignty. Today, his name is honored in streets, schools, and temples across the country. Statues of Ly Thuong Kiet stand in places like Hanoi, Bac Ninh, and Thanh Hoa as enduring tributes to his service. In textbooks, in the hearts of the people, and in historical records through the ages, Ly Thuong Kiet lives on as a national hero of monumental stature, honoring a hero through the ages. Temples built by the people nationwide. After his death in 1105, Ly Thuong Kiet was not only bestowed with noble titles by the Ly Dynasty, but also revered by the people as a guardian saint of the nation. Temples dedicated to him were established across the country, especially in regions associated with his life and military achievements, such as Ly Thuong Kiet Temple in Hanoi, located near the Ô Cha Dua area, where he is worshipped as the city guardian of Thang Long. Ly Thuong Kiet Temple in Bac Ninh, where he once commanded troops in defense, now recognized as a national historical site. Temples in Quang Ngai and Thua Thien Hue, built by the local people to honor his role in protecting the southern frontiers. These temples are not only sacred places of worship, but also spiritual symbols of patriotism and venues for educating future generations about national pride. His name lives on across the land. Today, the name Ly Thuong Kiet is honored in many ways. Major roads in cities such as Hanoi, Ho Chi Minh City, Da Nang, Hue, Can Tho, Hai Phong, and Bien Hoa bear his name. Schools at all levels, from primary to university, are named after him to inspire national pride and heroic spirit in students. Public institutions, libraries, and cultural centers also commemorate him as a prominent figure in Vietnamese history. Ly Thuong Kiet's name is not confined to history books. It is woven into the daily lives of the Vietnamese people as a vivid symbol of resilience and national defense. National commemoration and remembrance. In celebration of the 1000th anniversary of Ly Thuong Kiet's birth in 2019, numerous nationwide commemorative events were held. National-level academic conferences reaffirmed his historical stature and legacy in the formation and defense of the Vietnamese nation. Theatrical performances, art shows, and historical exhibitions took place in Hanoi, Bac Ninh, Quang Ngai, and other regions. Heritage trips were organized for students to visit landmarks associated with Ly Thuong Kiet's life, deepening their understanding of national history. These events are clear evidence that his place in history remains undiminished, shining ever brighter through time, in the collective memory of a grateful and proud nation. Ly Thuong Kiet is one of the most outstanding generals in the history of Vietnam, not only for his resounding victories against the Song invaders, but also for his forward-thinking military strategy, unwavering patriotism, and exceptional talent in both the civil and military realms. From the bold preemptive campaign into Song territory to the glorious defense at the Nguyet River, from his sharp military decisions to the powerful declaration, Nam Quoc Son Ha, Ly Thuong Kiet not only firmly safeguarded the borders of Dai Viet, but also laid a solid foundation for the nation's ideals of independence, self-reliance, and national aspiration. More than 9 centuries have passed, yet his spirit and heroic character continue to live on in the hearts of the Vietnamese people. His name is not only preserved in historical records and monuments, but also deeply embedded in the cultural and spiritual memory of the nation, becoming an eternal symbol of resilience and loyalty to the homeland. Honoring and remembering Ly Thuong Kiet is not merely an act of gratitude to the past, but also a source of inspiration for today's generation to continue building, defending, and bringing glory to the fatherland in the new era.